Good afternoon. The team of AA Garg and Co. welcomes you once again while we conduct our next webinar in the e-waste management rules of 2022. Thank you so much for sparing out your time today and letting us conduct the webinar. The agenda for today's webinar is key highlights for the e-waste management rules, and we will be taking you through the entire e-waste management rules of 2022, and then the registration process for under the portal. Today's speakers are Mr. Abhishek Garg, who will be taking through the rules, and Mr. Sudhakar Pandey, who will be taking us through the registration process. The rules for today's meeting are very clear that yes, the meeting is recorded. The meeting shall be based on Chatham rules, that is, only the discussions pertaining to uh, s- uh, only the discussions would be recorded without attributing to the speakers. Q&A session shall be taken at the last. Kindly restrict the discussion to the mentioned topic, that is on the e-waste management rules 2022 and the registration process. All the attendees shall remain on mute. For any queries, please use the raise hand feature. The moderator shall unmute and allow to speak in the Q&A round. Kindly introduce yourself briefly and your organization, and then you may start with your questions. And also, you may please keep entering your queries in the chat box. We will keep on answering to them. I hand over the mic to Mr. Abhishek Garg, who will take through the presentation.
Thank you, Ipshita, and thank you for setting up the context. Welcome everyone, and thanks once again for sparing out time to know about the e-waste management rules, which is again a very important topic in today's time. So yes, without wasting much time, let me start. So is my screen visible, Ipshita?
Yes, it is.
Okay, great. So I will be taking you through the e-waste management rules 2022, which was published on 2nd of November 2022 by MOEF&CC. This is the final version, which has been issued in subsequence of the draft version of the rules. So and yes, with us going ahead, before getting in the rules, let me take you through about the overall evolution of e-waste management rules in India. The first rule which was introduced by MOEF&CC in India was e-waste management and handling rules 2011. Subsequent to that, in 2016, e-waste management rule 2016 was introduced, which was incorporating the EPR. There was an amendment happened in 2018 into the 2016 rules, and yes, we are here with the 2022 final rules of e-waste management under India. Now, go through the structure of the rules which has been provided here. The first, it contains 8 chapters. The chapter 1, it talks about the preliminary detail about applicability of the rule, clarity in definitions. Chapter 2 talks about the EPR framework, entities mandated to obtain registration, and factors for registration revocation. Chapter 3 set out the responsibilities for the obligated entities and state government and union territories. Chapter 4 talks about the storage of e-waste. Chapter 5 talks about the solar photovoltaic modules or panels or cells management. Chapter 6 talks about the modalities of the EPR regime. Chapter 7 talks about the ROHS, and yes, chapter 8 containing the miscellaneous provisions, talking about the guidelines, annual reporting, appeal, environmental compensation, verification and auditing, and thereon. In totality, there are 25 rules covered under this 8 chapters, and there are 5 schedules in attached with the rules. Schedule 1 talks about the list of EEE equipments which are covered under the EPR, which are covered under these rules. And yes, there are 106 items across 7 categories under this Schedule 1, and we'll discuss in detail in the upcoming slides. Schedule 2 lay down the list of applications which are exempted from the requirements of EPR. Schedule 3 talks about provide the year-wise slab rates of e-waste recycling targets for producers. Schedule 4 again talks about but for the new or newly established entity producers. Schedule 5 talks about the list of authorities and their corresponding duties. Moving ahead, So MO, as already said, MOEF&CC has released e-waste management rules exercising powers under Environment Protection Act in separation of the e-waste management rule 2016. Is a very important thing to understand here, that this 2022 rule is in supersession of the e-waste management rule of 2016. Further, the rule will be coming into force and will get applicable from FY 23-24. So till FY 22-23, the old rule is applicable, and from FY 23-24, the new e-waste management rule 2022 will be applicable. Yes, there are around 85 new triple equipments are added in Schedule 1, which will be covered for the EPR and the e-waste management rules across 7 categories, resulting to a total of 106 equipment items. There's a new target slab rate has been introduced into this finally published rules, which starts with 60% from FY 23-24 to 24-25, reaching to 80% from FY 27-28 to till 28-29. We'll take you through the target slabs as well. Further, EPR fulfillment will be considered will be attained through online purchase of EPR certificate from the registered recyclers only. So under the rules, it has been clearly defined your fulfillment of EPR will be considered if you have the certificate from the recycler who are registered. Further, it states that producers can take help of the PROs or third party agencies and collection centers or dealers to fulfill its obligation, but the responsibilities shall lie entirely on the producer. A very key thing to understand. So government is saying you can work with the 3P agencies or PROs, collection centers for collection and channelizing it to the recycler, but the whole responsibility and accountability to fulfill is lies on the producer. So PROs are not accountable over here. Still the producer is accounted. They have clarified the same thing. Further, the definition of e-wastes now includes solar photovoltaic modules or panels or cells, as well as rejects from manufacturing, repair or refurbishment process. Now the e-waste definition provided under the rules, as said, covers the solar photovoltaic module or panels, and also it also covers the rejects from manufacturing, repair or refurbishment process. We can say pre-consumer waste in one form for e-waste. Also, it has been clearly clarified here that obligated entities must get registered for doing business and shall not deal and shall not do business with any unregistered obligated entities. So, if we are involved and if we are obligated under the e-waste management rules through the list of equipment, so we will have to get registrations, and we'll discuss who are the key parties who needs to take registration up in the upcoming slides. Also, it says that we should not be doing business with the entities who are not registered. So these two things the entities and producers needs to be very careful about. CPCB will be releasing, or rather, I would say they have released the portal currently, but applicable with the 2016 e-waste management rules. But the online portal will be used for registration for the issuance of refurbishing or recycling certificate. Currently, the online portal which has been introduced is basis 2016 e-waste management rules, which Sudhakar will take you through. But yes, it will be aligned with the e-waste management rule 2022. The procedure for that migration will be released by CPCB soon. Issuance of online certificate from the recyclers and provision of validity of the recycling certificate and the formulas are now included in the rules and clearly defined. Responsibilities and function of refurbishers also described along with the modalities of refurbishing certificate. They have defined the bulk consumer, and the new definition has been released under this new rule, which says bulk consumer is defined as any entity which uses at least 1,000 triple E equipment listed in Schedule 1 in a particular FY. So if there is any e-waste generated by a bulk consumer who is using 1,000 triple E, then they are covering under the definition of bulk consumer, and their responsibility is defined. Entities, the obligated entities under the rule are required to file quarterly and annual returns to the concerned regulatory body. CPCB, apart from this, CPCB is yet to issue a lot of details for the operationalization and implementation of the e-waste management rules 2022. For example, the SOPs for registrations, the guidelines for, and even for the life cycle of the life of the equipments, obligated entities, all those details are yet to be issued by the CPCB. CPCB will also issue, as I already said, the migration procedure from EWM rules 2016 to EWM rules 2022. CPCB shall also charge registration fee and annual maintenance charges, but those charges are yet not clarified. We are expecting those to come through soon. Moving ahead, this is a summary of the equipments, triple E equipments, which was there in the older rules, which is 2016, and now the rules under the 2022 EWM rules. So you can see there are total 7 categories. Previously in the old rules, there was only 2 categories, which is ITEW and CEEE, and now they had 16 items. Now the ITW category has 27 items in total, which is add 11 new items, equipments are added. For the consumer electronics, there are around 14 equipments now added into the list, and all the remaining 5 categories have their separate list of items. Moving ahead, a very important thing about the definitions of the obligated entities. So manufacturer is a key definition, but this is a simple definition. It says that entity under Companies Act or Factories Act or small medium enterprises under MSME Development Act has facilities for manufacture of triple E as per schedule 1. Important definition to understand here is for producer. It says, irrespective of selling techniques such as retailer, dealer, e-tailer, a producer is an entity which manufactures and sales, offers to sales triple E equipment, components, spare parts under its own brand, offer to sell under its own brand assembled a triple E equipment produced by other manufacturers and suppliers, and offers to sell imported triple E equipment and also who has imported used triple E items. So all of these category of obligated entity basis the activity defined here will be falling under the definition of the producer. For refurbisher, they talks about the entity repairing or assembling used triple E as listed in schedule 1 for extending its working life over its originally intended life for same or originally intended selling the same in the market. And they have defined the recycler, and we've already spoken about the bulk consumer. As already specified in the key highlights, that there is a restriction to carry out business without restriction, and you cannot do business with another entity who are not registered. Further, the rules, the batteries, the e-waste or the electronic items using batteries will not be covered under the e-waste management rules, for which there is separate rules, and we have covered a session, and you can find that in the YouTube as well. Then the plastic packaging used with the electronic items or triple equipments are covered under the separate rule, which is the PWM rules. Further, micro enterprises which are of service sector as per MSME development are excluded from the rules under the application of these rules. And yes, radioactive waste covered under the atomic energy are not covered through this EWM rules 2022. Going ahead, so for the registration purposes, there are 4 entities or obligated entities who are obligated to mandatory register. One is manufacturer, producer, recycler, and refurbisher. You can see bulk consumer is not highlighted here because for bulk consumer registration is not there, but yes, they have a limited compliances to follow. Further, it talks about the registration can be revoked if false or concealed information for getting registration, return reporting information required to be provided, furnished under this section or in case of any irregularity. Also, if there is a false information or information is considered or there is any misreporting happening, then the registration can be revoked by CPCB for a period of up to 3 years. Further, additionally, in EC will also be levied on the entity who has, and done any misreporting with during the registration process. Entities also covered falling under a multiple obligation, they will have to register separately in both the registrations. So, for example, an entity is a manufacturer also and a producer also or a recycler also. They will have to register separately under those particular obligation. CPCB will be charging registration fee and annual maintenance charges, and they will be coming out about clarity as how much will be the annual fees and the registration charges. As already spoken, CPCB is yet to issue the guidelines, the SOPs, life cycle of triple equipments, and the conversion factor for the recycling certificates. Moving ahead about the responsibilities of the producers. Now, the responsibilities of the producer has been clearly defined as already spoken that registration on the online portal is a must. Obtain and implement the EPR target as per Schedule 3 through the CPCB online portal as per the new slabs introduced. Producer registered under EWM 2016 shall have to migrate under these rules as per the procedure laid down by CPCB, which is yet to come. But yes, it talks about there will be a migration from the old rule to the new rule, and online portal will be facilitated for doing the same. But the SOP and the guidelines will be released by CPCB soon. The responsibilities of producer also covers creating awareness through media, publication, advertisement, posters, or any other means. And yes, they will producer need to file the QPR annual return in the prescribed format on the CPCB portal on or before end of the month succeeding the quarter year to which the return relates. Target for fulfillment of EPR is limited to producers only. EPR for conductor fulfilling the EPR obligation, it is limited to only producers. So manufacturer will not have to do EPR. They will have their obligation is restricted to the pre-consumer or the waste rejects generated at their manufacturing processes. Entities covered under producer as well as merchant as already spoken. Moving ahead, modalities for EPR regime. Now, fulfillment of EPR obligation shall be as per the Schedule 3 and Schedule 4. And as I already said, producer can take help of third party organization. But how the targets of the producer will be decided. So, target of the producer EPR obligation for each product will be decided basis information provided by the producer on the portal, which is related to sales and the weight of the product life period, which is as to be prescribed by CPCB. What would be the average life of those products listed down in schedules, which is 106 equipments. And definitely once the sales and the weight and the average life of the product has been provided, then multiplied with the target slab rate for those years will be accounted to calculate the final EPR target for the producers. And how the fulfillment will be considered? It will be considered through only online purchase of EPR certificate from the registered recyclers, and then you have to submit it online by filing QPR and annual return. The details provided by the producers and registered recyclers will be cross-checked on the online portal. In case of any differences, the lower figure would be considered towards fulfillment of EPR obligation of the producers. And also, the certificate shall be subject to environmental audit by CPCB or any other agencies authorized by the CPCB. So yes, this one slide covers about the responsibilities of the producer under the EWM rules, and yet little clarity or more clarity about the average life of the equipments and all those details yet to come. But this sets down the tone under the rules for the EWM rule 2022. This slide talks about the target. For example, the project as already spoken, the target for F5 F23-24 will start with 60%. For the next year, it will be again 60%, and from 25-26, it will be 70%. So after every 2 years, the target is increasing by 10%. So they have given target up to 80% for FY 28-29 and onwards, and 60% of the quantity of an triple equipment placed in the market in year y minus x, where x is the average life of the product. It also talks about the schedule 3 that targets for e-waste recycling shall be reviewed and may be increased after the year end of 28-29. Importers of used triple E equipment shall have 100% EPR obligation for the imported material after the end of life if not re-exported. So if somebody is not re-exporting it and importing, the obligation will be 100% for the importers. E-waste recycling target shall not be applicable for the waste generated from the solar photovoltaic modules or panels or cells. We will discuss about the solar photovoltaic modules or panels or cells. There is a separate chapter has been discussed for those. Moving ahead, in this responsibilities, we have combined the responsibility in made a one-page summary which talks about the various responsibility and who has to fulfill those responsibility. So first and foremost, the registration on the online portal, yes, manufacturer has to take the registration. Producer also it is applicable. Refurbishment and recycler for registration, bulk consumer is not applicable. EPR targets is assigned as per Schedule 3 will be only applicable to the producer. It's not applicable to the other entities. Filing of QPR and AR described as per the format will be applicable for the all four entities excluding the bulk consumer. Who can issue EPR certificates? It's the recycler who can issue the EPR certificate, which will be considered for fulfillment. The question here would be of the people that what about the refurbisher certificate? So the EPR certificate from the recycler will be considered toward fulfillment. For refurbishment, it is the extending the life of the product. So that is not considered as a EPR certificate. Who will be responsible for creating awareness? It will be responsibility of producer and the recycler. For the reduction of hazardous substances compliance, it is applicable to manufacturer and producer. Industrial e-waste generated during manufacturing, refurbishing, recycling is of responsibilities to send those industrial waste to registered recycler is of manufacturer, producer, refurbisher, recycler. Ensuring residue generated from the recycle process is sent to the CHWTSDF. It is of the recycler. Maintaining records for the e-waste collected, dismantled, recycled, and sent to registered recycle on the online portal is for the refurbisher and recycler. May accept e-waste apart from schedule 1 that has been clearly specified under the rule for the recyclers. And who can collect and send the e-waste generated to registered recycler? It is for manufacturer, producer, refurbisher, recycler, and also bulk consumer. So yes, all the entities can collect and send the e-waste generated to a registered recycler, and they can accept e-waste generated which is over and above the listed down schedule 1 triple E equipments also. So for refurbishing shall be done in accordance with the compulsory registration scheme of MEAITY, BI and BIS. Recyclers shall maintain their facility in accordance with the CPCB guidelines, and recyclers shall be accountable for and upload information about recyclable, not recycled e-waste which is disposed of in landfills. Moving ahead, they have also spoken about the storage of e-waste. So they have clearly said with respect to the equipment e-waste, it can be stored by manufacturer, producer, refurbisher, and recyclers. Period of storage of e-waste must not exceed 180 days. Record of sale and transfer storage of e-waste must be readily available for inspection. Storage of e-waste must be done as per the relevant guidelines. Exception that CPCB may extend it from 180 days to 365 days in case of special storage requirements. Coming to chapter 5, which talks about management of solar photovoltaic modules or panels or cells. So every manufacturer and producer of solar photovoltaic module or panel or cell shall register on the portal. Storage of waste generated up to the year of 2034-35 must be as per the CPCB guidelines. So the producer and manufacturer will have to register. They will not have the EPR obligation for the solar photovoltaic wells as per the slab mentioned. They need to store those waste of solar photovoltaic modules or panels or cells up to 2034-35 as per the guidelines which is yet to be issued by the obligated entity. They also need to file annual returns must be filed on or before the end of the year to which the return relates to up to year 2034-35. So they are saying the entities has to file annual return up till 2034-35 about how much is the storage of those solar photovoltaic cells waste is been stored. Processing of other waste, the waste generated apart from the solar photovoltaic cells and modules, those waste should be generated apart from the material in question shall be done as per the applicable rules for or guidelines from time to time being in force. Inventarization of the waste is done distinctly on the portal, and compliance to SOP and guidelines laid down by SOP. So they will be coming out with the SOP around in detailed guidelines, CPCB, and they will have to follow those guidelines. Recycler of solar photovoltaic modules or panels or cells shall be mandated for recovery of material as per the guidelines laid down by CPCB, which is yet to come. Moving forward, they have also spoken about the EPR certificate generation and the logic behind it. So they have said for the EPR certificate related to the recycling. So CPCB shall generate EPR certificate through the portal in favor of a registered recycler in the format as prescribed. The eligible quantity for generation of EPR certificate will be calculated for the basis the following formula, which is eligible quantity EPR equals to quantity P, which is quantity of the end product, and conversion factor. So this conversion factor is yet to be released for the at the equipment level. So conversion factor for each end product will be prescribed by CPCB with the approval of the steering committee. The certificate generated through this online portal will be valid for a period of 2 years from the end of the financial year it was generated. So, for example, if there is a certificate generated in December 2022, which is FY 22-23, so the certificate will be valid for next two FIs from which is 23-24 and 24-25. However, if the certificate is utilized for claiming the EPR fulfillment, it will be expired. Expired certificate will automatically extinguish after the period unless extinguished earlier as per the rule 19, which is 2 years. And each EPR certificate will have a unique number of which is a combination of year generated, code of end product, recycler code, and the unique code. The EPR certificate will be in the denomination of 100, 200, 500, and 1000 kg, or as may be prescribed by CPCB with the approval of steering committee. Further, refurbishing. So e-waste would also be allowed for refurbishing. Refurbishing certificate shall be generated in the favor of registered refurbishing that would be also online in the prescribed format based on the data provided on the portal. Refurbishing certificate shall defer the EPR obligation. It will not fulfill your EPR obligation. It can only defer your EPR obligation of producer by the duration as prescribed by CPCB for the corresponding quantity. Further, to incentivize the refurbishing, only 75% of the refurbished quantity shall be added to the EPR target of the producer upon the expiry of the extended life of the refurbished product. So, for example, let's say there is a 100 ton of EPR target for the producer. 60 tons has been recycled by the producer and remaining 40 ton has been refurbished. So and it is been refurbished for the next 3 years. So at the end of the 3 years, the 40 tons will not be added to the whole 40 tons will not be added to the EPR target of producer. It will be 75% of 40 tons which will be added to the EPR target of the producer after the 3 years. EPR obligation will be extinguished only after EPR certificate is generated for end of life disposal through registered recycler and not by refurbishing certificate, as already clarified. Further, in terms of the transaction of EPR recycling certificate, there is a limitation to, and there is only a limited quantity which a producer can buy for fulfillment of their obligation in a year. So purchase of EPR certificate for producer is limited to its EPR liability for current year plus leftover liability of preceding years plus 5% of the current year liability. So if a producer has a current year liability of 100 tons, the leftover liability of last year being 10 tons, and 5% of the current year is 5 tons. So the total EPR certificate a producer can buy in a year is for 115 tons. Transaction of EPR certificates for producers. The EPR obligation to be fulfilled by producer by proportionately purchasing EPR certificates on a quarterly basis. Purchase of EPR certificate will automatically adjust against the producer's responsibility. EPR certificate so adjusted will be automatically expired and extinguished. EPR liability will be deferred automatically on the basis of a refurbishing certificate. The availability requirement and other details of EPR certificate and refurbishing certificate for every producer will be made available on the portal. All transactions shall be recorded and submitted by producer and recycler while filing the quarterly returns. So yes, there would be an online mechanism of procuring the certificate, and there is a limitation and to how much a producer can buy the recycling EPR certificate, and they have clarified everything on the rule in chapter 5. Moving on, there are certain duties and responsibilities of CPCB has been clarified under the rule under 17, which talks about CPCB will be responsible for operation and maintenance of the EPR portal and monitoring of the EPR compliance for the obligated entities. They will be responsible for coordinating with SPCBs for preparing of guidelines, SOPs, conduct random checks, documentation and compilation of data on e-waste and uploading the same in the websites of CPCB, taking action against the violation of these rules, which is environmental compensation, conducting training, conducting awareness, integrating all the stakeholders, submit annual report to the ministry, which is MOEF&CC, enforcement of provision of ROHS compliances, interaction with the IT industry for reducing hazardous substances, set and revise the targets for compliances to ROHS, ensure ROHS compliances again, and then any other function delegated by the ministry under this rule from time to time. So these are the responsibilities of the CPCB defined under the rules. Also, there are certain duties has been again clarified in the rule for SPCBs, for state governments and union territories, for urban local bodies, for port authority, and for BIS and METI. So one of the clear thing and very important thing we all need to understand that even the port authority would be asking for your registration certificate on the basis of which imports will be allowed. So there are a lot of issues and the compliances issues has been happening, and that impacts the business supply chain. So yes, this is important for companies now to get registered very quickly and to ensure there is no disruption in the supply chain of the products. Moving on. So, in addition to the responsibility defined, the producers to ensure that the triple equipment do not contain lead, mercury, the chromium, polybrominated biphenyls, and polybrominated diphenyl ethers beyond a maximum concentration value of 0.1% by weight in homogeneous materials. For cadmium, beyond a maximum value of 0.01% by weight in homogeneous materials. Further, there is an exemption from guidelines of reformation for this particular ROHS. Components or consumables or parts or spares required for triple E placed in the market before 1st May 2014 may be exempted from the provision of Rule 16.1 provided ROHS compliant parts and spares were not available. Moving ahead, there are additional miscellaneous rules has been listed down under the EWM 2022. For example, so which are listed here, which is Rule 70, which talks about duties of authorities under Schedule 5. Rule 18, which talks about annual report, which is to be submitted by CPCB to MOEF&CC. Transportation of e-waste, which talks about that manufacturer, recycler should transport waste destined for final disposal to a TSDF facility following the provision under Hazardous Waste Management Handling and Transboundary Rules 2016. So for the transportation, the manufacturer recycler need to ensure they follow the provision of Hazardous Waste Management Handling and Transboundary Movement Rules 2016 also. In case of accident, there is accidental reporting provision has been included that an accident of an e-waste processing facility or transportation shall be reported immediately to the concerned SPCB through telephone and email. And there is a mechanism for appeal, prosecution, and there is a rule for verification and audit, which talks about CPCB shall verify compliance of producers, manufacturers, refurbishers, dismantle and recyclers via verification, random checks, inspection, and periodic audits. Currently, now in chapter 7, they have the rule talks about the environmental compensation. One the detailed guideline about the environmental compensation and what will be the fine, how and who will be implicated, all those are yet to come. But taking reference from the PWM, plastic waste management rules, under which the environmental compensation has been issued, I think the rules will be very much in the similar line. So you can refer our link to the environmental compensation guidelines under the PWM rule also. So under this chapter 7, they have said imposition and collection. Any entity in case of violation of any provision of these guidelines and issued under the rules. So any entity who is in violation of any rules, the EC can be imposed. EC will be imposed for producer for non-fulfillment obligations set out under the targets under the Schedule 1, and unregistered producer, recycler, any entity which has a violation to the rules. If they are not getting registered, this is a clear violation of the rules. If the entity is not able to fulfill the obligation, payment, in case entity is there's an action has been taken for a violation, the payment of the fee or payment of the environmental concessions shall not absolve the EPR targets for the companies or for the producers. So for example, let's say a company has 100 tons of EPR target, and company could do only 80 tons, and for those 20 remaining tons the EC has been charged to the company. So if the company pays EC, it doesn't mean that you're absolved of doing collecting back the 20 tons of the waste, triple E equipment waste. You still need to collect those additional 20 tons, for which you will be given next 3 years to do that. So if the company is able to collect and fulfill the remaining 20 tons in the next year, 85% of the EC collected will be refunded by the CPCB. If they are able to fulfill in the year 2, 60% of the EC will be refunded. And if they are able to do in year 3, 30% of the EC will be refunded. Post that, the whole EC will be forfeited. But still, it doesn't mean that your obligation or your shortfall in obligation is absolved. Further, for recycler, over generation of EPR certificates by recycler due to false information, revocation of registration and non-refundable EPC will be imposed. For a recycler, if they are generating EPR certificates over and they are doing something false, the revocation of registration would be done and there will be EC will be charged. If there is a repeat offense by the recycler violation, then the EC will be 3 times of the and it will lead to permanent revocation of the registration over and above the EC charges. The funds collected through the ECRC by CPCB shall be kept in the separate escrow account and shall be utilized in collection and recycling and end of life disposal of uncollected, historical, orphaned e-waste and non-cycle products, which will be used for ultimately the objective of safe and sound disposal of the e-waste in the country. Modalities and heads of utilization of the fund will be decided by the steering committee with the approval of MOEF&CC. Further, uh, in the interest of time, I'll quickly move towards closure. So there is a steering committee which will be formed, which will have representatives from MOEF&CC, METI, MNRE, MHUA, representative from producers and manufacturer associations, representative from recyclers associations, representative from state pollution control boards and pollution control committees, and member convener which will be head of division concerned division of CPCB. The steering committee responsibility would be for overall implementation, monitoring, supervision of these regulations, decide upon the disputes arising from time to time, representation received in this regard, and shall refer to MOEF&CC for any substantial issue arising pertaining to these rules. It is also their responsibility to review and revise in the view of technological advancement the rules and factors with approval of the ministry, which is guidelines, EPR target, addition of new items, equipment in the schedule 1. So thank you for patiently listening to us for these rules, but yes, there is more to it. For any question, we'll again see you again in the Q&A portion. Thank you everyone. Over to you, Pshita.
Thank you, Mr. Abhishek, for such a wonderful session. And I would like to give a brief intro about AA Garg and Co. Uh, as we brand name it as A2G, which is a prominent assurance and advisory firm providing services to leading Indian and multinational corporates since last 5 years. We specialize in providing management consulting and assurance services to all the companies who are obligated under the EPR. Our broad range of services spread across EPR audit and assurance, compliance and reporting, and consulting and advisory. So we provide services for registration, for compliance returns, for project management, audit and assurance. In terms of consultancy, yes, we are also introducing our services in waste footprint audit, regulatory audit readiness. We are introducing footprint dashboard and automation processes, and yes, providing management solutions towards all the issues arising around the regulations. Uh, this is about A to G, and I would request if any of the companies are facing any issues and or require any kind of assistance towards registration and compliance assistance, please feel free to contact us, and we will be there to handhold you throughout the process. I would now request Sudhakar Pandey to take you through the registration process on the online portal generated by CPCB.
Thank you, Ipsita, and welcome everyone. So I will quickly share my screen and take you through what is the EPR portal related to the e-waste management. Yeah. So hope my screen is visible, right, Ipsita?
Oh, yes, it
Hello.
is visible.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
So let me give you the background about this e-waste management portal. So CPCB released a notification, which was a public notice on the 17th October 2022, which was that the CPCB has developed the EPR portal, which is the portal which is aligned with e-waste management rule 2016, and it will help the producers and other stakeholders to obtain the registration, like what type of registration authorization it will help. So it will enable producer to grant a renewal of their e-waste authorization. It will also help the producer to migrate their offline registration into the online registration. It will also enable the registration for the PROs, registration for the service providers like refurbisher, recycler, dismantler, and it will also help for the registration of the bulk consumer, for the registration of the manufacturers as well. While this entities will do the registration and will obtain the authorization from the e-waste management portal, which is EPR portal, the transporter and collection point centers informations are also being added into this system. So this is about this e-waste management portal. I will quickly run you through what is the key contents of this EPR e-waste portal is. So firstly, this portal gives the idea, enables and gives the idea about the registration, the authorization for the stakeholders who are producers, PROs, recycler, dismantler, refurbisher, manufacturer, as well as bulk consumer. This also contains certain the rules like the e-waste management rule 2016, the e-waste management amended rule 2018. Then salient features of the e-waste management is also there. I mean in this portal, and it also contains the form 1 of e-waste management rule 2016, in which the producer will file for their grant or renewal of their registration. Even though this all the information of the e-waste rules is available on the CPC official website, but they have kept on this portal as well. Also, this portal is including the FAQ and SOP, which are were already available in the offline, when we were taking the offline registrations. So this is also available, like clarification in EPR is also available on this portal. FAQs for the stakeholders is also available on the portal. The SOPs are also available on the portal, like how the registration will be taken place by the, the obligated entities like producers. It also contains the important links, dashboards, and contact address of the e-waste management portal. So this is about the key contents of this EPR e-waste portal. Now, suppose if you are a producer and you are going to register on the portal, you should have certain preliminary requirements before applying the registration or before applying for the EPR authorization. What are those? Firstly, you should ensure that whatever the partners are engaged with you are supposed to be engaged with you in the sound management of this e-waste project, those are registered on the CPCB portal, like the PRO with whom you are being engaged or you are supposed to be engaged. That PRO is registered on the portal. The recycler is registered on the portal. The dismantler is also registered on the portal. So this is the first preliminary requirement. The second, whoever this partner with whom you have engaged, you should have the offline contract with those partners. You should have the MOU with that partners in offline manner. And what those MOU should contain? It should contain the type of party. It should contain the clear scope of the contract. I mean, what is the objective of contracting with the partner? Is it recycling? Is it for the dismantling? Is it for the collection and transport, or for the all? Then this contract should be on the stamp paper, and it should have the date of the purchase of this stamp paper. This contract should have the contract date, contract starting date, contract end date, and it should also contain the percentage of the target you are allocating to your partner, or you have allocated to your partner for the recycling or for the refurbishment or dismantling. So these all details should be available with you in the offline contract. Then third is you should ensure that you are compliant with the ROHS requirement which were given in the 2016 rule. Please note this all the requirements or this e-waste portal is designed as per the e-waste management rule 2016. So whatever the details they are asking, that is up to the rule 2016. Like they are asking for the equipment details. So they have listed only the 21 triple E items as per the schedule 1 of the e-waste management rule 2016. Now let me take you through what is the process for filing the application for the producer. So firstly, the producer is required to generate the login credential. I will take you in detail how the login credential will generate it. Then the producer is required to provide the equipment sales details basis with the portal will generate the e-waste. It will reflect you the e-waste generated by you because of the sale in the previous years. Then the you need to provide you the EPR management. I mean, what channel you are adopting, whether you are doing itself the management of the e-waste, or you are engaging with an EPRO, or you are directly engaging with the recycler. That details is needed to provide it in this portal. Now, like I already said, you need to provide the contracting the details in the portal, so that is also needed to be fulfilled in the filing of the registration. Then you have to provide your EPR plan, how you are collecting your waste, I mean, for which you have being obligated. So that also need to provide it. The awareness, which is also a part of the EPR management, if EPR e-waste management, that also needs to be provided. You need to provide what are the budget even you have located in the awareness programs. Then again, the ROHS compliances with the enclosure which talks about, yes, I have these equipments, and those are the limit that has been given in the ROHS. Within that limit, I am producing my products. I am introducing my product in the market. Then certain documents are also given in the portal that needs to be provided by you, and then after that you have to review your application. You have to submit it on the portal. Now the system has the portal also has the instruction for submitting the online application. So like once you are starting the filling the application, as I already said in the preliminary requirements, you should have your partner's PRO is registered on the portal. So you just need to check whether my PRO recycler is registered on the portal or not. If they are not registered, you have to tell them to get registered first on the portal, and after that you will be able to file your applications, right? Then you have to review your details that you have provided in the general in generation of the login credential. You have to provide the sales details. Like I have already said, there is only 21 items given in this portal, so you have to allocate the sales figures for those 21 equipments only. Then you have to allocate the type of services, I mean, with whom you have contracted. Those things needs to be provided. You have to provide the details like who is the PRO and what is the contract date and what percentage of the recycling or refurbishing I am doing with that party. Then EPR plan for the meeting of the target awareness, or just that's all needs to be provided by you if you are a producer. I will quickly take you through the portal, how portal works and how the details needs to be fulfilled. I will quickly switch my screen. Uh, just give a moment. So this is the e-waste management system, which is the e-waste portal under the EPR. So firstly, this is the here you have to select for the generating the login credential. Once you click here, the list will come. Like if you're a producer, then you have to click on here. If you're a PRO, subsequently there is other stakeholders. In whichever you are following, you just need to click there. Suppose if you're a producer, I'm clicking here. Then the next page will open where you have to provide the details for generation of the login credential, like company details, the mobile number of the company, office email ID, office number, GST number, and IC numbers as well. So suppose if you have already offline registration and you have been authorized in the offline manner, then the details you can provide here. Like you have to provide the authorization number from the certificate that you have obtained in the offline authorization. So that number you need to provide it, and certain details from your last authorization, I mean the offline authorization, will be fetched in this portal, and the certain details needs to be provided. So I will show you that in later. And like then during the login credential generation, you also need to provide the information like the address of your facility, of your office, then the state in which you are operating, the producer card, all those details is required to be provided. Then the details related to the authorized person is also required to be provided. Then the authorized person address is also needed to be provided, and after that you need to provide the password, and then you have to register yourself. Once you register on this, once you register yourself on the portal, the login credential will generate it, and then when you sign on this portal, this dashboard will open for you. I mean, if you're a producer, this dashboard will be open. Now, in this dashboard, the instructions are given that I have already explained how you will file the application, what is the process for that. So the same is written here. You all can go through it, and there are, firstly, like I already said, there is a, you need to provide the contract details, so that that option is also given here, and there is the form 1A where you need to provide details in this producer filing the registration of the producers, right? For this process of filing of the registration, we have prepared a checklist. I will quickly run you through that. So we are helping producer to file the registration. So for that, we have prepared this exhaustive checklist, which contains all the information that is required to be incorporated, and we are helping brands, and we are also putting our guidance, what details is provided, what exactly the details they are asking, and how this is needed to be represented, and how this is needed to be filed on the portal. So this is our complete checklist. We will send you in that as well. So this is from my side, and thank you for listening me. And over to you, Ipsita, now.
Great. Thank you so much, Sudhakar, for this wonderful explanation about how the registration procedure is conducted on the portal, on the online portal. And thank you, everyone, for sparing out your time, for your valuable time in today's session. And I hope this session was fruitful to everyone. And in case of any queries, I'm just dropping my details in the chat box. You can please revert me back. And yeah, anyhow, I'm dropping my email ID and my contact number both. So yes, thank you everyone for joining today.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.